This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. It's day 5 and my throat is not quite there still, but it's getting there. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. But today I am so friggin' excited because today I will be talking to Frances Sherman. You all know her as the gorgeous, talented, sexy, vivacious scream queen slash final girl in such 80s classic movies as the Mutilator. She wasn't the final girl in that. She was actually the first victim. Disconnected, she was the final girl in that. And she was also in Breeders and Rider PI and Riot on 42nd Street and a few others. And it's going to be a great conversation today because I can't wait. It's the 40th anniversary of the Mutilator and Disconnected, and I'm pretty excited about that. Those are two very underrated slasher flicks. And she'll be my second guest from the Mutilator. I talked to Matt Mittler back in 2020, and find out what she's doing these days. I mean, she is still acting. It's just she's not doing the kind of movies that she used to do back in the day. And there's also like a Claude Rains family connection there that we'll get into. And I think today's her birthday. I'm not sure. I have to double check, but I believe July 17th was her birthday. It said on the internet. I'm going to ask her, but it is definitely PJ Soul's birthday, one of my favorite cult movie actresses of all time, and a wonderful early guest I had. I love you, PJ. Happy birthday, PJ. So yeah, here is my interview with Frances Sherman. Hey, Frances, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Thank you for asking. How you doing, Tommy?
Pretty good. I'm getting over a pretty bad cold, but other than that, I feel great.
That's good. Summer colds are difficult.
I know it's been years and years since I had one, but this is such a great honor. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, not a problem. Happy to help.
So, going back in time, I can imagine that having a stepfather and Claude Rains' brother, that it was only natural that you were going to gravitate toward acting as well.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that, but I was always attracted to older movies anyway.
Uh
So I
huh.
was a big fan of classic films, and he was in quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe that did have some impact on um, being sort of enamored with the storytelling process that it is.
Yeah, what were some of your favorites?
Oh, well, Mr. Skeffington,
Mm-hmm.
Notorious, Casablanca. Yep. The list goes on.
Yeah, when I talked to Claude's daughter Jessica last year, we talked a great deal of movies of his, especially The Invisible Man and Phantom of the Opera,
Sure.
as those are such a classics. So did you get involved in school plays and community theater and all that?
Yes, I did get involved with school plays from a very young age. My genetic makeup may have been uh, predisposed to theater. There's photos of me in scrapbooks of me performing on fireplace hearths with all the stuffed animals stacked up as my audience. So this was kind of there from the beginning.
Uh huh. Are you born and raised? Are you born and raised in Nevada?
I was born in Reno, but we moved around quite a bit. My father he worked in casinos,
Mm-hmm.
so he would often move from one place to the next if they were building a new one, and he would usually help on the open.
Nice. Yeah, Reno's a very nice part. I went there when I was 21. It's the only time I've ever been to Nevada.
Oh, it's a beautiful state, especially up there if you get to Lake Tahoe and other points around there. Did you get up there to Lake Tahoe?
No, we didn't make it that far. It was just for like a short weekend trip.
Okay. Did you keep your money?
Let's see. I'm not good at playing games in general, so all I did was the slot machines. And no, I didn't win any jackpots or anything.
Yeah, I know the machines are hard.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago too. So after high school, did you attended Wagner College, right?
This is correct.
Yeah, did you study acting there?
Yeah, I double majored in psychology and performing arts.
Did you have any classmates we would know?
Uh, not that I no, not that I know of. A lot of them went on to do a lot of crew work on Broadway,
Mm-hmm.
um, and in production ends of things. So it's not usually names that people would be familiar with. There's not any celebrities that
Mm-hmm.
came out of my class.
Did you do any theater there that you're proud of?
Um, yeah, well, it was musical theater, so yeah, that was a hoot because I'm not a great singer, so they put me on stage anyway, and
Yeah.
yeah, and you sing and dance, and I could dance all right, but it was always so gratifying to get through a part having sung it, and still have the audience be okay with me.
Yeah, so musical theater wasn't your thing then.
It was. I loved it, but you have to understand that, I looked like an ingenue,
Uh,
right? But I sang like Kay Ballard, so I was the character actor,
yeah.
and and so they had a problem trying to fit me, with what they were predisposed to cast me as, because I couldn't hit those notes. I couldn't
Hmm.
hit a soprano notes to save my life, and so I had to kind of grow into the character that I became. Um, just with time, you kind of age into it. So I figured I'll have the time and I'll get my chance at that.
Yeah. Yeah, that must be tough to look like an ingenue, but sing like character actors.
Yeah, and it was frustrating because one of my first agents in New York um, was a real legitimate agent, so he was always sending me out for plays, and occasionally there'd be a musical, and I'd go in and I'd get the call back, and I'd have to do that singing audition, and it was hard. It was just it's like, oh, I don't think I'm ever going to do this for you, Barry, the way they want to cast me. And so eventually he learned, like where
Yeah.
where to use me so that everybody wasn't wasting their time.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So after college, was that when you studied with Esper?
No, there was I worked for a while, and it was probably about, no, 10 years later that I fell into Bill Esper's class.
Okay. What did he teach you that you still use to this day?
Oh, well, a lot of repetition, a lot of having the activity. You have your activity and you do truthfully under imaginary circumstances. So it's all about finding the truth of the moment and trying to be authentic in the moment. Um, Using what is,
Yeah,
you try to all of the ideas and in a way of being present to everything that's there in the moment with you and just react to that.
yeah. That's what I heard about him is that he used to do repetition exercises. I remember David Rashi was on the was on the talk show AM Los Angeles with Christine Ferrer. They were both in Esper's acting class in the 70s, and they both tried to recreate one of his repetition exercises. And instead, it came off really funny, and they're like, "Yeah, we didn't understand it then, and we don't understand it now."
No, yeah, yeah, it was torture. And first year was a lot of that, and basically, I think it was just it was the litmus test. It's like if you could survive repetition, you made it to second year. You know,
Yeah. So your first movie on IMDb is Model Behavior.
is it? I they
Yeah,
list things that um there are films that probably aren't on there that are part of the
of course.
independent lexicon. Um, but I want to say that Mutilator came before that,
Okay.
just in chronology.
So
You're taking me back a lot of years here, so
yeah.
I may misremember the dates, but if IMDb doesn't always get it right.
Oh, I know. I find out every day that's not accurate and not fully right, and I feel embarrassed sometimes. Um, so the
And
mutilate.
people will post
Go ahead.
stuff, right?
I,
Other people will post stuff, and then you got to get it corrected, and it's not the easiest venue within which to make those corrections and get things straightened out. So, but eventually things do untangle themselves. So
yeah,
we,
some people have a website, which you do, and I was looking at your resume, and I saw a few things on there that IMDb didn't have, and I'm always happy when I find those, but it's not that often, and sometimes it just comes off as embarrassing when I don't get the complete credits or anything.
oh, yeah, it is what it is, right? We're working with the materials we've got. I'm
Yeah.
not very good at tech myself. I don't have a PA that works for me to
Hmm.
handle all the tech. So again, I'm working with a group now that's trying to work with a bunch of us who are struggling with the tech just to kind of stay up to date in the 21st century with all the inputting we have to do, right? Just
Right.
to stay current with our materials and be relevant and all of that stuff. And um, they're very it's not just me. There's a bunch of us out there and some are amazing actors with big credits that struggle, with all of the tech that is demanded of us, and we all struggle with IMDb.
Hmm.
So,
So
I don't know if we waste much energy being embarrassed. It's just, it just is what it is, and there are ways to find out, more information about the rest of them. And
hmm
anybody who's worked, they know how to find it.
so the Mutilator was first, and Matt's been on. He's a great guy. So was that just a standard audition you went out on?
Yes, yeah, it was an open call. And in fact, my boyfriend at the time talked me into going. I wasn't going to go, and he talked me into going and went with me because he was going to go anyway. And they didn't want him. They called me back, and Matt and I guess, were the only two New York actors that got cast for it and flown down to North Carolina.
Yeah. How was the weather? It looked like it was pretty cold.
Oh no, it was beautiful.
I guess it's the old grainy camera that makes it look cold, because I noticed that for a lot of movies that were shot low budget in the horror realm. you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
If they weren't shot 16 millimeter and blown up to 35, which made them grainy, right?
Hmm.
Then then yeah, they kind of crafted the texture there. No, it was very pleasant there, as I recall.
Now, when you got the script, it was called Fall Break, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and it became the Mutilator because it was more sellable.
Yes, I think the one thing Buddy has a story about that. about how that came about. I don't recall that,
because
but I know there's a story.
because a lot of slasher movies back then, they all had like a holiday theme to it, you know. But Fall Break didn't really roll off the tongue, I don't think, you know. But yeah, I mean, the Mutilator, I mean, it's just as fine because yeah, I mean, it is a horror movie.
Right? Oh, it was so funny. Oh my God! I look. You're bringing me back, and I'm just like my brain is exploding a little bit with just how crazy it all was.
Yeah. So I mean, you all looked like you genuinely got along and were having fun on this movie.
We all generally had a great time on the movie. We were all very excited to be part of it. Um, Buddy had housed us very comfortably, and we were treated very, very nicely. And he clearly had ambitions for the release of the film that was rather exciting for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to do the best we could, in the situation we were in, and and he did four wall it kind of nationally, which was kind of something at that time given the budget he didn't have.
Yeah.
But I hear, M2 is even, it took him a while to get there, but it should have the same kind of shot, if not better.
Yeah. That opening, oh my God, was so ahead of its time. With the boy accidentally shooting his mother, you know, those house gun accidents happen more frequently, I think, after that as time went on, and of course, you know, it's evolved even more horribly with kids shooting each other on schoolyards.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't even know how to speak to that. It was a particularly disturbing sequence.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't enjoy, like, I would hang out on set a lot, but it was not one of the days that I particularly enjoyed being there.
Hmm.
I wanted to see how they would handle it because it was his wife at the time, right, and
Yeah.
his son. So it's like, how was he going to even handle that? But they did it. I mean, I couldn't comprehend watching that, even as fake as it all is, right? I
Yeah.
just couldn't imagine myself there emotionally, with people I loved. But he did it, and it
Hmm.
was it was powerful.
It was pretty powerful. One of the most disturbing openings I've ever seen in any slasher film. And yeah, at that point, the when you guys made it, I mean, the slasher genre was still pretty hot. By the time it came out, it was starting to fizzle out a little bit, and then teen horror movies became more like teenagers in trouble movies, where supernatural elements came about, like zombies and vampires and stuff like that. But at this point, I mean, the genre was still pretty hot.
Yeah, I mean, there was actually there was a girl. Oh gosh, I won't even remember her name now. But she was in one of the Friday the 13th or Jason. Which one was Jason? It was
Uh,
Friday the
yeah,
13th, right?
yeah. Jason was Friday the 13th.
I think she was in one. She was like in the second one of those. Lauren
Lauren Marie
Lauren
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yeah,
Yes,
she's a friend of
she was
mine.
at Wagner.
Yeah,
She was at Wagner with.
yeah, she's a friend of mine. She's been on the show 3 times.
There you go. She was a hoot.
Oh yes.
So we were kind of coming up at the same time,
Uh
right?
huh. Yeah.
And so it was that thing. Yeah, it was like kids at camp, and then it goes wrong, as opposed to, um, you know, as
Yeah.
opposed to Blair Witch, and where it went later.
Yeah. She still is a hoot. Nothing has changed. She makes me laugh more than anyone. I'll tell you.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad she hasn't changed. She's sparky.
Yep, she is. Yeah. Were you comfortable doing the swim scene? Was it like freezing cold?
Yeah, that was cold. The pool was not heated. The and they had put a cover, I think, over the whole pool area, and I wasn't sure if it was for discretion or if it was for some of the lighting effects that they wanted to have inside there. But it wound up being very discreet, um, and it was a long night because, yeah, after every take, it was like, okay, find some towels, find a robe, find something, warm me up, throw me back in, take another stab at it.
Yeah.
Drown her again.
Yeah. A really great line in the movie. He has to save his strength for more important things.
Well, teenagers, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's all Linda cared about, I guess, as a character. She was very much looking forward to her time
Yeah.
with her boyfriend. Um, that didn't, it's that horror film morality, right? So
Yeah.
that, the more sexually aware they are or active, they're the first ones to go.
Yeah. I like how you pinch the stuffed kitty's chin walking by.
Oh, good.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, Buddy, he's been trying to make a new one, I heard. He wanted to make one, back in the 80s, but his wife started having kids, I heard him say in an interview.
Well, yeah, and I don't know what I didn't keep in touch with Buddy, so I can't really speak to a lot of that side of it. But
Yeah.
I do know he does have the other one coming out now,
Oh, yeah.
and so he did eventually get it made. I think the look of it is much more contemporary and has some merit. Has some standard to it. I can't speak to the script. I saw the script. So it'll be whatever that is. But for anyone who loves the genre, I'm sure they'll get a kick out of it.
I didn't even realize that it was already made. I thought he was in the process of making it. Yeah, I haven't talked to him. I've been trying to make the connection, but hopefully I'll get to. Um, Yeah, I love Disconnected. A very scary and underrated B horror flick, I think. Was that too a standard audition?
Yeah, it was. Again, it was a photo submission and then a call in. Um, Met with Gorman
Hmm.
and read for Alicia, and then then found out that there were twin sisters, or the possibility that the characters would be twin sisters, and he took the shot and said I could do that. It was a fun opportunity to try to play at that.
Yeah, that must have been a challenge to play two different roles, especially in a low budget movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. But it's one of those things where you know, and everybody who was making films back in the '80s like that, it was quite the thing. I mean, they were using the cameras that they could use of the time, right?
Yeah,
And which now people would just take their cell phones and probably do the same kind of guerrilla filmmaking.
right.
But they were just trying to run these experiments, to answer questions creatively that they wanted to answer for themselves, and to be part of that process where we were all learning something and
Hmm.
trying to explore the possibilities of where either the tech or the script or the editing, we're going to take the storytelling. That was fascinating to someone like me. So
Hmm.
it's not an opportunity that comes along the same way anymore.
Yeah. Which of the two girls was the closest to you?
Oh, Alicia,
Alicia, yeah. That's what I was thinking
Alicia,
too.
yeah. I mean,
What
Barbara Ann was fun though.
Was Barbara Ann's hair really yours, or did they put a wig on you?
No, that was mine.
Okay. Yeah, because it was all curled.
Yeah, yeah. My hair was stick straight normally, and there was this thing again. It was like the '80s into the '90s, and the bigger the hair, right? Like that
Right.
'80s hair. They were always, hoping to curl it rather than wig it, and God bless them. I don't know how I survived, inhaling however much Aquanet
Yeah.
that was used in my head, but
Yeah.
that's what that's what you do.
So it was shot only on weekends.
Um, Primarily there were longer weekends, right? If it was
Hmm.
I was in a lot of it, so it felt like I was there all the time. But I couldn't have been, but it felt like I was there all the time for
Hmm.
the duration of that shoot. So I'm sure there were about 2 weeks there that I was there most of the time, and whether it was working out costuming, um, or going over other details from what needed to be different between the sisters, or just nuances of things that we were trying to hit. It was a long time.
Yeah.
It felt like forever,
Yeah.
and it felt like forever, and then like a blink of an eye at the same time, because the days were very long. We were working when he was shooting. They were 16-hour days.
Yeah. I mean, look, and now that looked like it was freezing cold there in Connecticut.
Yes, yes, it was.
And working with Gorman, what was that like? Because I heard he could be pretty eccentric.
He is eccentric, but he's brilliant in
Yeah.
his own way. He's got such a. One of the things about Gorman that was fun was his true affection for movies, kind of in a similar way. So, we would kind of get into discussions about old films, things he knew that I hadn't seen, and things I had seen that he didn't know, and so we kind of jammed on like a film history stuff.
Yeah.
And so any film noir stuff that he was fascinated with, if he could light the set in a particular way, he was going to try to use it, just for the fun of
Yeah.
it. And so, yeah, I mean, generally, he he's really smart, but he's really unusual. He's kind of has a different way of looking at things, so that um, you either kind of get it or you don't. And we had an amicable relationship on the shoot. So but I know that hasn't always been the case for people that have worked with him.
Hmm.
But we had a decent time on that shoot. So I'm grateful, because we talked old movies, so it was easy.
Yeah, I've talked to his ex girlfriend Debbie T. Bolt. She starred in all the movies that he made after this. She was the lead in all of those. She still has a lot of love and affection for him. She just doesn't have a lot of love and affection for people he surrounded himself with. She faced a lot of sexual harassment from a lot of his friends and stuff.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, yeah,
Oh no. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. That was
yeah,
not my experience, so I don't know.
yeah.
But
That's
again,
good.
we're first, like it was
Hmm.
the first. So I don't know. I mean, Carmine Capabianco was in Disconnected, and he was a decent guy. He was married, you know, and funny,
Hmm.
and so he was decent with me. I don't know if that's, I know he did a couple of the other films as well, and they had a very close friendship, as far as I knew.
Yeah,
Um,
and Mark Walker, he's still acting.
is he?
Yeah, I
Good for
looked at
him.
I looked at his IMDb. He's been working consistently since the 70s. I remember him from David Cronenberg's Rabid. I think he's Canadian.
I don't know. When we were shooting, he was living with his mom in Jersey.
Oh, okay. Maybe he's one of those Jersey guys who got to make his way to Canada for that movie. I don't know, but
I don't know.
it was mostly Canadians in that movie, except for oh God, what's her name? Marilyn Chambers. She wasn't Canadian, but yeah, for the most part, it was a Canadian production. But I love how you call him for a date, and he's in bed with a dead woman full of blood. I mean, it's really dark and funny, and it really pulls the rug out from the viewer, and it makes you hold on to your seat because you know something good's gonna come.
Well, that you got to credit Gorman for that. All of
Yeah,
those weird, dark humor moments, they came right out of Gorman's brain.
yeah. Oh my God, it's a brilliant scene. Yeah, I love how Alicia works in a video store. I think this was probably one of the first movies in which a character works in a video store because they were brand new at the time, and you
But
see you see all these movie posters of movies that were brand new that became classics like The Outsiders and The Lords of Discipline, and of course Gentlemen Prefer Blondes was already a classic by that point.
right, right, and that was kind of Gorman's thing too. He wanted to feature something that kind of put a nod to that, right?
Yeah.
There were he actually had some respect for the of the time. So he put, he more, put the little credit there up on the wall. You could put a poster there, so you have a nod to it.
And that band that plays throughout the movie, the excerpts. Oh my God, they were talented. They were this feel good kind of a band, and they're playing music for a movie that shouldn't be in it, but yet it's so good.
Well, again, Gorman's ear, right? His
Yeah.
affinity for sort of indie bands or singers, right?
Hmm.
Um, that was his other passion. Was all the music. So he knew all kinds of underground bands and people coming up, and he would follow that. He'd write reviews for different publications. So he was very well versed in all of that, and of course, it probably influenced all of his subsequent documentary work, right? That
Hmm.
focused on those bands and such. But yeah, they were really fun, and the place that there was this one club local to Waterbury, and they would play there a lot. So we'd wind up there. It was one of the local eateries anyway, and we would just hang out and hear them play. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's so awesome. The ending, oh my God, it becomes black and white. When I was watching it recently, I was like, oh my God, this is like a Jim Jarmusch movie. The way it becomes black and white. I'm sure his mindset was Fellini at the time or something like that.
Probably, yeah, yeah. I'm sure you're spot on.
Yeah. It's very clever. He is a genius.
God bless Gorman. Oh, well, how do you do it, right? You find new
Yeah,
ways to be weird with the influences of the people that have actually spoken to you, right?
right.
So, he's so funny.
The other screenwriter, Virginia Gilroy, was she ever on set?
I think I met her. I think I met her at least once. So she had to be there at least once, if not more. But I can't tell you for sure. Again, I'll get very kind of laser focused on what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I don't always remember who's in the room, but
Yeah.
he was there at least once.
Yeah, I'm guessing she was probably a college friend of his or something because I looked at her IMDb. That's the only thing she ever was involved in.
Yeah, I don't know if she came from the new school where he studied or what. I'm not clear on the history.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so cool though. I mean, even though you played two characters in the movie, at least you got to be the final girl in it, you know?
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, there was a time there, where it was like a big victory to live until the end.
Yeah.
Because I was always getting killed, somewhere in the first or second reel, and it was kind of an achievement. Well, I died, but I lived, so that was good.
Yeah.
It seemed like progress somehow.
Tell me about Writer PI.
What do you want to know?
Well, how was making that movie?
That also was really fun because most of the New York comedians that were working at that time did something on
Yeah.
it, right? So whether it was a bit part or just little cameos here and there, um, Dave Hawthorne and
Bob Nelson.
Bob Nelson, man, Bob Nelson's another genius, right?
Love him.
And Burns cameo. I mean, it was like the first cameo he'd ever, first film he'd ever done.
That's the
I
only
think.
that's the only part of the movie I've ever seen. It's on YouTube. Howard Stern's sequence.
Oh my God. Okay. So, but everybody, but Bob was great, and they were really fun. And there again, it was kind of a homespun family project where Carl's mom and dad were kind of making people comfortable in different houses, with the neighbors, and you know, what do you do when you don't have a budget, right? And
Yeah.
how do you try to keep people kindly, when there isn't a whole lot of budget to spare. So, no, that was the best actor on the whole piece is probably Zippy the Chimp, the cameo with this monkey that like runs around. But Zippy was great,
Yeah.
and and to try to be there, and primarily my job, right? I'm the pretty girl who's kind of the foil for all
Yeah.
of the antics that they do, right?
Hmm.
So, keeping a straight face sometimes was hard because they were really funny. I mean, they were authentically funny, and off camera, between takes, on breaks, they were competitive. It was like who could cut who up more, who
Hmm.
could tell the better joke, and they were relentless. They were at it constantly,
Yeah.
constantly. You know, so it was a real learning experience of comic timing, um, how people do that, how Bob Nelson worked with any of the puppets that he worked with, um, and his character work. Um, it was it was a real learning experience, and Dave was a sweetheart of a guy. This
Yeah.
this kind of grumpy detective guy, but he was a sweet sweet man.
Yeah, my dad and I, we used to watch Rodney Dangerfield's HBO Young Comedian specials, and Bob Nelson was in two of them. That's how much Rodney believed in him, and
Yep.
we just loved those characters. And he did an HBO special once where it was like he had like all these like stage set doors where he was going in and out of them as different characters every few minutes. It was so brilliant.
Yeah, see, because he could do that like in an instant.
Yeah. I know somebody who recorded a DVD audio commentary track with him recently for a movie he was in, and his health is not good, but hopefully he'll hang on.
Yes, hopefully. I know that he's been making a recovery. The whole community came together to help support him and his wife
Hmm.
when he got the diagnosis. So, um, yeah, everybody's rooting for him.
Of
It's
course,
you don't. Everybody's rooting for him.
he's one of the geniuses. He's the
He did. He did perform live again rather recently. I think it was in Brooklyn.
mhm.
I'm not sure. You might have heard better than I did, but
No,
that's what I heard.
I didn't. I'm out of the loop with his performing and stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's the Red Skelton of his day, and Red Skelton
Yep.
told him once not to go blue because he was very blue early on in his career.
Right. Right.
You know.
And yeah, that's right. And then he wasn't, right? Well, he was
Yeah.
part of um the identical triplets, which was like Eddie, was it Eddie Murphy, him and another black guy? So it was
Yeah.
that was part of the joke, was that he was the white guy and it was supposed to be triplets.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bob Nelson's one of many comedians who was close to Eddie early on, and then when Eddie became famous, he said bye bye. Didn't even acknowledge him. Sadly.
Yeah.
So you did a couple movies with Tim Kincaid directing, Bad Girls Dormitory and Breeders. It's the obviously you had a good working relationship with him.
Yes. And Cynthia, his wife.
Hmm. Yeah, I may have seen Bad Girls Dormitory on USA Up All Night when I was a kid. I can't remember, but Breeders definitely. I love all the Empire movies. They're just brilliantly shot, low budget creature movies, and some of them were a lot of them were shot in Italy. Some of them were shot in L.A., but this is one of the few like New York ones, right? So it was shot in New York, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, again, Tim was one of that crew, that New York crew that was, not wanting to have to go to LA, right? To
Hmm.
to make the movies they wanted to make and run the experiment. Um, so he was running them right there on, like, in the 20s, in the East 20s. Big loft
Yeah.
apartment,
Uh,
other locations around the city. It was fun. Under the
yeah.
Brooklyn Bridge, when they took us down to for the last, that pit of muck or whatever we are in, and breeders and all of that goo.
Yeah.
It was all under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Wow. Were those puppets difficult because of the low technology of the time?
I I got to tell you, I don't remember seeing the puppets.
Okay.
I don't remember it. I don't know if they scared me. I don't know if they shot it differently. I don't know if they were there when I'm there. Does it look like there's puppets where I'm at? With, other than like an appendage, right? Like an
Yeah.
appendage when the thing is like raping the character or something.
Yeah.
There was there was no full out device that represented the aliens that I saw.
Yeah, Charlie Band had a sick sense of humor that way. Around that same time, he made From Beyond with Stuart Gordon, who had just made Reanimator. And there's a part
Mm.
where, like, the monster grabs Barbara Crampton's breast and says, "You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna kiss you." And he puts her whole head in his mouth for a few seconds before he's overpowered.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, Barbara was the Fay Ray of the 80s. The way she screamed, nobody could scream like her in the 80s. And she was perfect for those movies. What was it like working with Natalie Savage?
Oh, Natalie. Um, yeah, I mean, everybody. She was professional. I mean, Jeff Fahey, we knew he was going
Hmm.
places. So yeah, I mean, it was just, she. Everybody was trying to. We would get there and talk, between takes and stuff, and people were up for soap operas, and like, we didn't know what we, if it was going to like ruin it, or if we would have
Yeah.
careers. So it was, she was nice. I didn't have that much interaction with her,
Hmm.
but the scenes that were there, were fine.
She's very shy. She won't come on the podcast, unfortunately, but I do think she's great in the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You were in Abel Ferrera's China Girl?
Yes, I was one of a group of women who were, they called them buddy girls. So
Hmm.
we were kind of the girls who hung out with the gang members.
Yeah. Anything stand out about that?
Uh, it was hot. The weather's always like a factor, right? So there they are doing like a San Gennaro's feast, and
Hmm.
it's hot downtown, and everybody's sweating, and um, the um, one of the more interesting bits that I thought he made a choice of was the love scenes where the lead actor was actually naked and the girl was draped. I just thought that was it was unusual at the time, to see the men nude as opposed to the women.
Hmm.
So I thought that was an interesting choice.
He's another genius.
Yeah, I haven't really followed much of what he's done since. You'd probably be able to educate me better.
Oh, he does lots of great stuff. You know, he did the King of New York with Christopher Walken, and
Well, that was
Bat.
before.
No, that was after. This was in '90. He did that one, and then he did Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel, and he's done a lot of stuff since then. But it's not stuff that really gets seen, you know, because these movies were so low budget. They weren't spending a lot of time in theaters, and they were going to video quickly back then.
Yeah, that's true.
But this time he had done Miss 45, which is like the landmark cult classic of Abel Ferrera's career.
That's true. Yeah.
What's her name?
Okay.
Zoe Tamarun. Uh,
Right.
yeah, she died of a heroin overdose, unfortunately.
Holy crow!
Yeah, like
I did not know.
back in the '90s. Yeah, I know a
Wow.
guy who's interviewed her widower, her husband.
Oh, for God's sake, that's sad. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Statistically, he should be dead because he was way older than her and he was doing heroin too at the time. He was like a late bloomer. It wasn't until like they got together he started doing it, but then he cleaned himself up long before she got to. She never unfortunately had it in her to clean it up,
Oh,
which is
see.
sad. Yeah.
Ah,
Uh,
wow.
Riot on 42nd Street. Yeah, that's another one I'm not too familiar with, but I was reading that it was shot without permits. Like a lot of movies back then that were low budget were shot without permits.
Right. Again, it's another Tim Kincaid
Hmm.
film. Um, Women in Prison, right?
Uh-huh.
The prison low budget prison film.
Yeah.
And yeah, it it was just a free for all.
Was it a real prison?
No,
Oh, good, because
no,
I've heard
they,
stories
they
about these women in prison films being shot in real prisons, and it's scary there.
no, they reconstructed stuff. What they couldn't use in their own loft. The whole shower sequence was somewhere else. I'm not sure if it was a Y somewhere in New York. I don't know. Again, if they didn't have permits, I don't know if they just rolled cameras in and we just took showers. I don't know. But we shot and moved on. Um, yeah. But
You did the
I especially liked. Oh, you're talking right. Sorry. See, this is why I need reminders. You're talking Riot on 42nd Street, not Bad Girls Dormitory. Thank you. You got to correct me, Tommy.
Well, if stuff comes to mind, you can still tell me. It's okay.
No, yeah, because Riot on 42nd Street, that was the first time I ever had to work with pyrotechnics in a
Uh-huh.
death scene where the squibs were on me.
Okay.
So Matt Vogel did the rig, and which he worked with them a lot, and I was, I was nervous, man,
Hmm.
because it was on my head. But everything worked out okay because he knows his stuff.
Yeah. You were in the ABC after school special Date Rape.
Yes, yes, there was a. They would do these after school specials about, I guess,
Yeah.
different sociological issues of the time.
Yeah.
At that time, I guess date rape was happening, in
Hmm.
schools or elsewhere, and so they kind of did a movie about it. Um, Again, you know, and we were all too old for it. No, I mean, like today they'd hire teenagers,
Yeah.
and you would kind of think that was appropriate. The lead actress was 30, and and I was embarrassed because I was like 22 maybe, and it was like she's like, don't be embarrassed, and I was like, okay, alrighty then,
Da-
we'll just go
Danielle
and
von
do this thing.
Zernick.
I'm sorry.
There's Danielle von Zernick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but so you just do it, and and you're grateful because you're working.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I saw on your website that IMDb doesn't have. And yeah, it's got a good cast. John Carlin is in it, and David Patrick Kelly, the ultimate sleaze in a lot of movies.
Are we? Yeah, you gotta go with your entry point. They say, you just it makes it easy for them. If you can be cast in that thing, that one place. So
Did you work
he
with?
certainly got a lot of.
Oh yeah. Did you work with Michael Caine on Shock to the System?
Um, yes, and the story there was I got called in to do stand-in work for Elizabeth McGovern,
Mm-hmm.
and so I took it because Michael Caine was in it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'll go open envelopes, anywhere in the room just to see what goes on in this film. And they upgraded me. They gave me other stuff to do. I wound up, doing more stuff around the office, and um, so, so they liked me pretty well, which was great. But because Miss McGovern was often not rehearsing on set, and Michael Caine liked to rehearse on set,
Mm-hmm.
I would wind up doing all this rehearsal stuff with Michael Caine. Oh my God. So it was the best time, so there we are, and I'm trying not to, like the first day we're there, we're reshooting at night, and we're sitting there, standing on a street corner in the Upper East Side, and
Yeah.
he's smoking a cigar as they're getting the shot up, and it's my first day there, and I can't stand the smell of this cigar, and I'm trying not to puke on his shoes because I'm like, oh no, they're going to just fire me the first day, and I don't want to lose this job. And the sweetness of this guy, he sees me turning green, and he's like, oh, so what's the matter, love? Is it my cigar? And I couldn't even speak. I just started nodding my head because if I spoke, it was over. And so he says, don't worry. So he puts the cigar out. Do you know he never lit up a cigar near me for the rest of the 4 weeks I was on that shoot?
Interesting. Interesting.
He was, and he knew everybody's name.
Yeah.
He taught me how important it was, to sort of take people in like that. I was horrible with people's names. And I just started making a better effort because I saw how it changed the relationship of everybody in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew baseball. We would talk baseball. I was a Mets fan. And so we would
Mm-hmm.
talk baseball. And
Huh.
then like one after a night shoot, who's walking up? But it was like Keith Hernandez. And I was like, oh my God. It's like Michael Caine and Keith Hernandez. It
Wow.
was like surreal.
I would never guess that. Yeah, about him being a baseball fan.
I know, right? Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really fun.
Oh my God. I've heard that about him though. He remembers people's names while working with them.
And just kindly, and he was a kind person to work with. He was mindful. I guess is a better word.
Yeah.
Considerate. So, and he didn't have to be, So, yeah, but he was. He was a good human, and anything nice that's ever been said about him is probably not half as good as it should be because he was a doll.
Oh, that's wonderful. You were on the Daily Show.
Yeah, I had, I had a bit co-star part. They did some shooting out in the Hamptons, and we were living out
Hmm.
in the Hamptons at the time, and so we rolled up to the bakery where they were shooting, and we were going to go get stuff. We weren't really paying attention, my husband and I.
Hmm.
And we walk in, and it's the commentator guy, the reporter guy that was always on the road or whatever. And he starts asking me questions about the Arab.
Hmm.
So my natural response was, "What's an Arab?" And it became like a thing for that 15 seconds, right? Of what's the Arab, because in town it was like a big thing that the Jewish center and the community wanted to put up whatever this Arab boundary was, and some people were very well informed on it. Clearly I was ignorant, and they thought that was funny, so they used it. And I got a lot of phone calls because I guess a lot of people watch the Daily Show, and and it had its little brief moment that was interesting,
Hmm.
for what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just fell into it. There was no audition. I just like walked into a room, and it was there.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting when you get involved in the comedy world and just see how crazy comedy writers and comedians can be.
Yeah, yeah.
You did a movie not too long ago called Night of the Wolf. Did you work with Lance Guest or Rutanya Alda?
I'm I'm still not good with names, so you would have to better remind me their characters. So if it was the lead that was
Let's see.
the
Let's see.
blind.
Lance Guest played a character named James Griffin, and Rutanya played a woman named Gloria Baker.
No, I played the vet. So
Okay.
the lead character comes in because his dog is attacked by whatever it is in town,
Hmm.
and so we have this encounter with him, with his son and daughter-in-law, and he's in this community. He can't see. He's blind, right?
Hmm.
So this is his seeing dog, and so it's what to do, without this dog, and what to do for the dog, and that's what the bit was. So I was there 2 days. So
Hmm.
I didn't even meet Tina Louise. She was staying in the same hotel, but I didn't even get to meet Tina Louise. That's how
Well,
brief we were.
I've heard she can be kind of a diva. But this is a great cast. Oh my God, Karen Lynn Gorney from Saturday Night Fever, Dana Ashbrook, Tom Noonan, um, Ethan Embry. Oh my God, that's a great cast. Caitlin O'Heaney, I want her on so bad, but she's been MIA on social media. Wow, that's a great cast.
Yeah, and again, the hook there was to have a horror film where it wasn't the teenagers, right?
Yeah,
You got all these older people kind of struggling in that way, And what do you do with that? And what do you do with the impediment if someone's blind,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I'm curious, what did your family think about the early movies you did, and what do they think now?
Well, my parents have passed away.
Uh,
It wasn't the thought of me being in the movies that caused it. So there's that. Um, my my father was not as comfortable with it as my mother was.
Mm-hmm.
But they supported me and knew that I was really finding my own way.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have the kind of resources like parents that were going to kind of fund my journey into whatever my creative expression was going to be. So that was all on my own. So if I wasn't breaking any laws or hurting anybody, what was the difference?
Mm-hmm.
So if I made some missteps along the way because I had no guidance,
Mm-hmm.
there was a bit of that. I could have used a mentor or two that had my best interest at heart. It was the 80s, and it wasn't always safe
Mm-hmm.
to be in some of the rooms that anybody was in. So, I did the best I could with what I had. It wasn't my parents that were the hardest ones to talk to about the work. It was my son.
Mm-hmm.
So, when my son went to college, his roommate looked me up online, and that was he kind of outed me to my son.
Oh my God.
So I get the phone call as if the roles are reversed. He's like, I think we need to have a talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was kind of like that. I was like, look, hon, I was, I was a self-supporting artist, and it wasn't, the nobody judged it, any
Yeah.
particular way at the time, and probably less now than they judged it then. So, you know,
Well,
yeah,
there wasn't too much to be embarrassed about because unlike a lot of women in movies in those days who got naked consistently in film, you didn't have this decadent, sleazy look about you. You had this wholesome, all American, nice girl next door look to you who liked to be mischievously naughty and not hurt anybody. And I think that's why you have such a cult following from these films.
that's kind of fun to hear. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was important not to be salacious,
Hmm.
right? It was
Yeah.
absolutely okay to be human in
Yeah.
whichever way that went, but it was absolutely, it wasn't in my nature, and it was important to me to not be salacious about it. I'm not sure I could have sold it if I had to be, frankly, because it's not my nature,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So that's that's kind of cool. Thank you. I like that. Maybe people got that it wasn't as smarmy as it could have been.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm from San Francisco. We have a nude beach out there. I used to frequent it a lot. I'm comfortable with nudity. That's why I like to talk to actresses who did nudity and was not embarrassed by it. Because it's something that we can all relate to.
Right. No, the nudity wasn't what I was embarrassed about. It was mostly kind of how the movies turned out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they used that take. Oh no.
Of course,
You
that's
know.
always going to happen. Everyone's not going to be satisfied with the take that ended up in the movie. I saw your paintings on your website. They are beautiful. When did you start doing art?
Oh, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I had um, a spine issue, and I wasn't sure at the time if it was going to degenerate to where I couldn't perform anymore. So I thought I'd better get my act together and find another way to express myself. And when we were living out in the Hamptons, I kind of fell in to with this local art teacher, and I started drawing from live models. So they were nude, and it was kind of different because they were naked, and I'm like studying their bodies and kind
Hmm.
of looking at them intently, just to try to have them not look like a potato. And so it went from there, and I since got healed, so it just becomes another tool that I have in my toolkit for self-expression. I enjoy it a lot, and people now commission me, every so often to do works for them, and I feel wonderful that there's another way that I can make them happy. They seem truly happy, when they get a
Yeah.
piece of work.
Yeah. Do you have a gallery?
No, I don't. It's you know it, it's kind of like Howard Stern. You can't get a piece of Howard Stern's art unless you know him and he gives it to you. Um, it's friends and friends of friends and word of mouth at this point, and because I'm kind of working again, so um, I have to manage my time.
Hmm.
So I can't be painting, canvases, these 4 and 6 foot canvases, um, and still do the other work. I don't have the brain capacity or the bandwidth to manage all that with the rest of my life. So I kind of pick one or the other. If I'm working more, with stage or film, I'll do that for a while, and then it has its own natural rhythm anyway.
Hmm.
And I wind up back at the easel, when things slow down again for.
Nice, nice. What's a vanilla lobster?
Oh, um, there's a recipe for that. Yeah, it was how I met Shane Wolf,
Uh huh.
who is a fabulous figure artist and one of the other teachers that I got to study with in Paris. Um, it's you take a lobster. Everybody can know this is not my recipe. It was a French recipe from one of the restaurants over there in Paris.
Hmm.
It's a summer recipe, so you have a lobster. You cleave it, right?
Yeah.
You can pre-steamed it or you can cleave it raw. You scrape out your vanilla beans into the cavity of the lobster.
Yeah.
Add your butter, lemon. Wrap the whole thing up in tin foil. Throw it in the broiler and let that cook until it's done. Depends on how big the lobster is, how much time you give it. And I'm telling you, the vanilla does something to it. It it's sweet. It's very sweet.
Interesting. It would never have occurred to me to mix vanilla with lobster.
Right?
Because
I know.
I like to mix butter with lobster.
Yes, but the vanilla with that little bit of lemon, it lifts it into like summertime
Hmm.
somehow, and it's very light. All of a sudden, instead of being like this heavy winter lobster meal or whatever, it becomes this lighter thing. It sits in you better too,
That's
digests better.
that's so awesome. Do you have anything
Yeah.
upcoming you'd like to mention?
Well, I worked with this Nepal crew on a film called Telvisa.
Hmm.
Um, they're trying to break into the Western market. Um, so they've got this story that combines Western and Eastern culture and philosophies in a way that becomes a trial movie.
Hmm.
So you kind of explore um, what's fair or legal based on people's perceptions of culture, and how we misperceive or perceive cultures either mistakenly or accurately, just
Hmm.
based on our own experience. So what's normal there may not be normal here, and vice versa. And how do you give someone justice if they've behaved according to their culture
I know
in your space?
it's the whole
Right? It's
court.
a fast and they're wonderful group of people. So I hope that'll be coming out in December. Telvisa.
Nice, nice. Real quick, we gotta play my secret silly game. This is a series of silly slumber party questions. It's no win or lose. It's just pure fun. And how the game works,
It's not
Francis.
the actor studio questions. Come on.
What? What?
It's not the actor studio questions
It's
at
kind
the
of
end
like
of
it
it.
was kind of based on that when I first came up with it. Kinda.
Okay.
So I ask you the question, you answer it, and then you ask me that exact same question, and I answer it. And feel free to comment on the answers because they might be funny.
Okay. Let's see if I can do.
Francis, are you ticklish?
Yes, I'm ticklish. Tommy, are you ticklish?
Oh yes, but if you tickle me without warning, I might hit you in the groin.
Okay.
Is your belly button an innie or an outie?
My belly button's an innie, as all attractive people
Love
should
it.
have innie. Does your belly button an innie or an outie?
It is also an innie. It was an outie when I was born, though.
It migrated.
It did. What color are your toenails painted?
They're not.
Okay.
What color are your toenails painted?
They are clear coated.
Oh, there you go. Good for you.
Yes. What would you say is your. What's that?
Do you do your own nails?
Yes, there was a period where I was getting them done professionally, but then when inflation went up, I just started doing them on my own.
Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more work, but hey, at least I'm giving myself a treat. um, what would you say is your best personality trait?
My best personality trait is probably my childlike wonder.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
What is your best personality trait?
I have empathy and I have no filter.
Oh, I could have said filter. I could have done that.
I'm a
I'll do that
Gemini.
next
If you
time.
could have anything named after you, what would it be?
If I could have anything named after me, what would it be? I don't know.
You can't think
Maybe
of anything.
I don't know. I don't know. Somebody, I don't know. I really don't. I have no clue. What would you want someone to name something after you?
Vibrator.
Ah! Okay. See, yeah, I don't get the joke. See, this is why I need to be around comedians more.
Yeah. I would call it the Tommy Chatsy. And then my favorite question, is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag?
Is there a stinky smell that just makes you gag? Yeah. Yes, there is.
What is it
I don't know that
specifically?
I talk about.
That's that bad?
How do you? I don't. I don't feel comfortable talking about it. Is there a stinky smell that makes you gag, Tom?
By the way, you're the first one to ever say that, so congratulations. Me, it's either farts or feet.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, the classics.
Yeah, that's kind of standard.
Is is today your birthday?
Yes, it is.
I knew it because I saw it on the internet, but I didn't know how accurate it is. There's always people are always saying that someone's birthday is something that it
Some
isn't.
other day.
Yeah, happy birthday, Francis. I feel so special that you're willing to talk to me today.
Oh, I feel wonderful that you took me down memory lane on my birthday. It's kind of a cool thing.
I hope you have a happy birthday today and enjoy the rest of your day and be safe out there.
You too, Tommy. I hope you feel better soon. And
Thank you.
thanks for having me on. I hope you have a lot of success with this podcast.
Thank you so much. 7 years and counting, and it's just going to keep getting better.
Awesome. Rock on, kid.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Frances Sherman. Ain't she a sweetheart? Oh my god, she is so much fun. I'm so glad we got to talk today. I'm so glad that she remains positive um, about, her past doing those trashy exploitation movies, because I've met so many people who aren't, and they've quote unquote cleaned up their act, so to speak. But I'm so glad that she remains, positive about it, and it was a great experience for her. It wasn't negative. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!